Okay, so it being on or about 6:30, bring this meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission on August 22nd, 2022 to order. Please note, in keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency as amended by Governor Baker on February 12th, 2022, this meeting will be, no, that's not the right language, is it? I guess it is, yes. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members, commission members will be remote. Remote attendance will count towards quorum. The meeting may be broadcast and is being recorded by ECAT with audio and video. So please act accordingly. In accordance, we'll take a roll call attendance to establish quorum. Al, you want to start?
Benson, present.
Ben Carroll, present.
Crossman, present.
Spadia, present.
Rory Caulfield's present, so all 5 members of the board are present. And let's just go right into it. First up is 15 Vineyard Place. This is a notice of intent for proposed construction of an in-ground pool with associated landscaping. I see we have Claire.
Hi there, yes, Claire Hogebom with LEC representing the applicant today. How is everybody?
Good.
Great. I'll just briefly explain the project if I have permission to share my screen.
Absolutely, yep.
Great. Let's see. Can everybody see the plan set?
Yep.
Great. So this is a sort of like a local notice of intent application for the construction of an in-ground pool and associated patio, cabana, fencing, the relocation of a play yard, the replacement of an existing deck to the rear of the house, and it also includes some invasive species removal and associated tree removal, grading, and landscaping. I say, a local notice of intent because the majority of the work is located within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering land subject to flooding. So for the most part, the work is also located outside of the 50-foot buffer zones. My cursor is going over the sort of brown layer, which is the 50-foot buffer zone, to the floodplain, and the orange line is the 50-foot buffer zone to BVW. So for the most part, the work is located in the outer 50-foot. The site itself is not mapped within estimated or priority habitat. It is also not mapped within an area of critical environmental concern or an outstanding resource water. Just quickly, I'll go through the work that is proposed for the project. So I'll just zoom in a little bit here and just sort of work from top to bottom. So what we have going on is the proposed pool here and associated patio. The cabana, a shower, is located at the terminus of an existing driveway. We have the grading identified in the solid line work here with the sort of dots on either end of it. And we are proposing the material stockpile area completely outside of the buffer zone to any resource areas in an effort to minimize any potential erosion issues that could occur from that. We have our existing play yard located here that'll just be shifted to the rear slightly and still remain outside of the 50-foot buffer zone to both resource areas that we're working with here. And as you'll note, we do have erosion controls depicted on the plans that will be installed on the down gradient side of the work footprint in an effort to protect the down gradient resource areas. And we also have the proposed permanent wetland markers that will be installed along the limit of the work following the completion of the project. Here we have the solid black line work, which indicates a retaining wall that's installed to essentially minimize the grading as much as possible within the buffer zone. here my cursor is going over the existing deck, which essentially will remain within the same footprint it is in currently. The applicant's just asking to install more stairs where the stairs don't essentially go all the way around the deck at this moment. This area here between the deck and what we see here is a retaining wall, a stone retaining wall, is currently manicured lawn. So the applicant would like to install landscape plantings, including shrubs and native herbaceous cover here. So this will still remain vegetated. This will not become a new impervious surface here. So that sort of is all of the work associated with the pool. As we sort of head further down on the plan set, some of the invasive species removal proposed is going to occur along this retaining wall. Over the years, there's been species such as honeysuckle, burning bush, bittersweet that's growing on the retaining wall that the applicant would like to address. In addition to this area identified on the plans, which is only within the outer 50 feet of the 100-foot buffer to the floodplain. And the applicant is going to retain their landscaper to either for the most part, hand remove all the invasives. Some bushes, the burning bushes that are actually mostly located here, might require some shovels or tools to remove, but we wouldn't really expect any larger equipment to be required for that. And this would be restabilized with the native seed mix anywhere that invasives are removed. And lastly, there's a mature oak here on the sort of forested side of our retaining wall that over the years has been losing limbs in large storms, and the remaining limbs are hanging over the applicant's home. So they would like to request authorization to be able to consult an arborist to determine removing that tree. And we did receive the staff report from Jennifer, and she requested that if we could keep any trees cut to 10 to 12 feet above the ground to allow for some wildlife habitat. So this is actually a tree that the applicant is open to doing that with. So it would not necessarily be cut down to the roots. That one would still be left at a relatively good height for wildlife. And in addition, any other trees that are removed for grading would also be laid down in the forested area to provide more wildlife habitat. And I mentioned the permanent markers, so I believe that's really it for what's going on with the project. I'm happy to take any questions.
Jennifer?
Claire, could you just confirm that it's actually the red line that's the 50-foot buffer to wetlands, and the brownish sort of line is the 100-foot?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
The red line is the 50-foot to the wetlands. This orange line that I just selected is actually the 100-foot to the wetlands. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, much further away than
Yes.
how you described it. It's
Yes.
very much at the very edge of the outer 100-foot buffer zone. That's why it's exempt under Wetland Protection Act, and they're only here under the bylaw. The invasive species removal, I think we could use a little bit more information on that, but several meetings ago we talked about just using the fact sheets and providing those to the homeowner so they wouldn't have to hire anybody else. So we can add the invasive species removal fact sheets to the order so that your landscaper can follow those and properly remove and dispose of invasive species. You did mention one thing I don't think I caught in the application. So the trees that you're removing from, or your client is removing from the work zone, the plan is to just cut those and leave them in the 100-foot buffer zone somewhere?
I don't know if it would be all of them, but it was actually a response to one of your comment asking if trees were cut to be left at 10 to 12 feet. And for some of them, because there would be regrading involved, they might not be able to allow them to remain. So if there are trees that have to be cut down to the roots or just stumped, that the applicant's open to having some of those dispersed in the forested area to allow for some wildlife habitat.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for any tree, just the oak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, obviously you need to remove those trees to do the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't clear.
Okay, understood. Then, yeah, we're happy with that comment.
Just the one tree.
Yeah.
I think my only other comment is if there's invasive species removal, just for the commission to decide if you need any kind of reporting on that in the order or not. Just so I know if I need to write it or not, but that's it for me. Thank you.
Commission members? So, do we have any idea what the filtration system is for this proposed filtration system is for the pool?
I'm not certain of the filtration system for the pool.
So the only, I mean, part of this is there's so much, most of the work here, there's some slight grading going on in that outer 50, right? I mean, that's the majority of the work, some invasive species, tree removal. So it's not a tremendous amount of work, but I'd want to make sure that we're not discharging treated water back into the wetland area. And so, I mean, typically there's two approaches that we've typically had for this. One is either to, the applicant really, I leave it up to the applicant to sort of make this choice, is either use a filter cartridge system, which has no backwashing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the other choice is to use a saltwater system, which is typically less treated than chlorine. You end up with chlorine in the water just in a different manner. I understand Stefan may have an answer to this question, so why don't we ask the applicant? I will promote him and he can answer that himself.
Oh, great.
Here he comes. You can turn on your video and audio, Stefan. Yep, just unmute yourself and just identify yourselves for the record. Be great. There you go.
Hi, Stephen Catino and Marissa Catino at 15 Vineyard Place in Northeastern Massachusetts. Thank you all for your consideration on this. So it's an ozone filtration system. I'm just pulling away the stuff. I don't recall exactly if it's a cartridge system or not.
Yeah, I mean, the ozone is actually even further beyond even all that others, it's, you're treating the water an entirely different way. So it's, we actually talked about that at one time too, and we felt that the technology, actually it was probably about a year and a half ago, I think the technology was just a little too new for us at that point, but I know a lot are going that way at this point. Okay. So it may be the least impactful of all of them. So.
Hey, that works for us. Happy to hear that from your perspective. That's good. Yeah. I did just want to clarify on the trees because I know exactly which ones that are within the 100 foot to the DPW we want to take down. There's the red oak that's noted on the plan, and somehow it didn't get on the plan, but there's another kind of quad trunk oak that's just inside the 100 foot. That's actually closer to the project itself that we wanted to cut down, and that one we can leave it at that 10 to 12 foot height, no problem at all. The red oak that's on the plan, it was kind of a quad trunk, and 3 of them have been decimated by storms over the last 6 years, and the last remaining limb is kind of hanging over the house. So that's the main reason we want to cut that one down a certain amount. But again, as Claire mentioned, that can stay at the 10 to 12 feet. That's great.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Any public comment for 15 Vineyard Place? So seeing none, Claire, I assume we want to close? Oh, just saying, do we have a DEP number on this, or do we need one?
No, we don't need one.
Yeah, we
Right.
don't need one. That's right. So, okay, we're good.
Yeah, happy to close if you are.
We have a butters notifications on these, right? Just for the record.
Correct. Yeah, we did submit those on the Monday deadline to submit this application request, correct?
Great. I just, it's always one of those things I have to check a box, you know?
Yep.
Seeing no public comment, make a motion to close 15 Vineyard, please.
Spady second.
Caldwell, Spady is second. Roll call.
and I.
Carroll, I.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caldwell's aye. Make a motion to, any other further comment from anybody? Make a motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 15 Vineyard Place. I think we've talked about all the conditions, so. I actually, why don't we just, hang on, let me retract that. The one comment that Jennifer asked about was whether or not we wanted monitoring on the invasive species removal. I don't know, Mr. and Mrs. Coutinho, are you proposing to do this yourself for the most part? Are you hiring this out to a landscaper or mix and match?
Probably, so I ideally hired out to the landscaper. Some of it I've been chasing down myself over the years and, beating some of them back steadily, but pretty thick in some areas. And in some areas of our property, we didn't even know, we didn't even know were ours. So it'll probably long-term be a mix, but for this project, hopefully as much as possible to the landscapers.
Yeah. Stefan, I mean, Jennifer, how what would that reporting look like if we wanted it?
If you wanted it, you could do, just a few photos or something that explains which species you took that were taken down. Or you might decide it's not necessary at all.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards the not necessary part about this on this particular one. Anybody have any objections to that?
I agree, not necessary.
Okay. I will make a motion, issue a permit for work and order conditions for 15 Vineyard Place.
Benson, second.
Caldwell's Benson, second. Roll call, please.
Benson, I.
Carroll, I.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caldwell's aye. 5-0. Thank you.
Great,
Good luck
thank
with
you all
the
for your time.
project.
Appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is Lincoln Street between Bay Road and Aspen Hollow. This is a notice of intent for proposed installation of granite curbing, concrete sidewalks, and all appurtenances. I just like saying appurtenances.
Sorry, I'll have to recuse myself from this one.
Okay?
All right.
Okay, Matt, you want to introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, Matthew Garchettle with the Easton Department of Public Works.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to present the project. You have control of the screen. You can do what you need to do.
Sure. Just give a little background. So this project is for the installation of new sidewalks along Lincoln Street between Bay Road and Aspen Hollow Road. It's about a distance of about 8/10 of a mile. It also includes the installation of sidewalks along a small portion of Bay Road and Allen Road. So the idea behind this project is to improve pedestrian safety along Lincoln Street, where there's an existing sidewalk that terminates around Aspen Hollow, and then to tie into some existing sidewalks that are up by Mortimer State Park to kind of connect the corridor for the walking path between Northeastern Village and Portland State Park. And it's also includes some drainage improvements along the roadway. Currently, I think there's only one catch basin along that entire stretch of the roadway. So I have a copy of the plans to pull up just to kind of walk everybody through it. So this is the section of the road where we're starting over by Portland State Park.
We can't see your plans, Matt, so give that another shot. There we go.
All right, sorry about that.
No problem.
So this is the beat, or one of the terms of one of the project over by Portland State Park. So we're proposing to install a sidewalk along one side of the roadway, the existing roadway, between the edge of the pavement and the existing property line, which is pretty much stone, old stone walls that run along the side of the roadway. There is a small area of wetland resource area in this stretch of the project, but we're not anywhere near that section of it. So basically, the project continues down Lincoln Street, past Ramblewood Road, and then up to up near Jonathan Drive. There's a small area of wetland down here. We'll be working within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone to that wetland area, just for a small stretch to install this portion of the sidewalk. And then the sidewalk continues over to this couple of wetland areas. There's a culvert that goes underneath the road here, in the main stream. So in this section, we'll be working within 200 foot to the riverfront, and also within 100 foot. And there's a small section of the 50 foot buffer. We'll be putting in an access ramp and a portion of sidewalk. Essentially no changes to the grades in that 50 foot area, just to transition down to the road. And then in this stretch, we're not going to be proposing any improvements, just some line striping to create a pedestrian pathway. At some point, we're going to have to reevaluate this stretch to make the sidewalks continue, but that's going to be a larger, more involved project, and will take additional funding, which we don't have at this time. So we're going to skip, skip that section and come back on the other side. Again, we'll be working within the 50 foot and 100 foot buffer zone. In here, in this small stretch here, we're within a floodplain. And then the sidewalk continues up Lincoln to Aspen Hollow. And this over here is where the existing sidewalk begins or ends, whichever way you look at it. So essentially, we're creating a pedestrian corridor between this end of the project and Portland State Park. And as part of that improvements, we're looking to do some drainage improvements. We're looking to install a catch basin and an infiltration trench at this end to catch storm water coming down Lincoln Street. There's a high point in the road right around Flyaway Pond, and all this water that runs off Lincoln just runs untreated, uncontained into the wetlands. So we're trying to do some improvements to the roadway as much as we can. There's not a whole lot of room within the roadway right away to do much improvement, but we're doing the best that we can. And then along the rest of the roadway, we are proposing to put some leaching style catch basins at approximately 300 foot intervals along the road, along Lincoln Street. Basically, this stretch of Lincoln Street from just east of Bay Road drains all the way down to this wetland area. And I think there's one existing catch basin right here along that entire stretch of road. So I think we're proposing to put about 10 catch basins, infiltration catch basins along the road to help improve with the stormwater.
So is there designs for those catch basins included?
Yes. So let me go to the leaching catch basin would be on this, basically a perforated precast concrete structure with crushed stone around it. I believe they're 6 foot diameter structures with a foot of stone around the sides and the ends, and underneath to infiltrate water. And then the other structure, which was on the the eastern end of Lincoln Street, we installed a standard catch basin with a leaching trench. The catch basin will help, the deep sump in the catch basin will help any sediments settle out before it goes into that leaching trench. And then this is just kind of a typical detail of what we're proposing: the sidewalk, vertical granite curbing with bituminous concrete pavement for the sidewalk surface.
How wide are the sidewalk?
The sidewalks are going to be about 5 feet wide. So it'd be about a 5.5 foot wide total impervious area. And then we match the grades on the backside of the sidewalk to meet the existing grades at the edge of the road.
Okay. Jennifer? Anything else, Matt, before I go to Jennifer?
I think that's about it, unless anybody has any specific questions.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Jennifer?
Matt, can you just explain the limited project to everyone?
Yeah, so the project is it's an improvement to an existing roadway, less than the 1 lane width. So it falls under the limited project category. So the idea is that we're doing the best we can to address the stormwater and meet stormwater standards on the project.
Okay. So the project, as Matt said, is in the floodplain area, so bordering land subject to flooding, which requires if you fill or alter the floodplain area, you have to compensate for it, provide flood storage in another location at each incremental elevation. Because all of the work is proposed within the right-of-way and there's no place to actually create new flood storage, they do fit under the limited project status as the roadway project that Matt mentioned. And the commission has the ability to say that the 316 cubic feet or 516, how much alteration do you have, Matt? Do you know?
I'm trying to.
It's a small amount of.
Yeah, it was like 300 and some cubic feet.
Okay. The commission has the ability to say that that's a de minimis amount and that the improvements to the stormwater would make up for that. And so you could not require floodplain compensation if you so choose. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions from the commission? I think the only thing that was suggested is that we certainly, if somehow in the next 3 years when this permit is still open, that you find the funds or the manpower to do the portion that is through the wetlands, right? I think you should probably just come back to this permit and amend it. It'd probably be easier to do that. I think we would be open to that. And so I'm just sort of suggesting that we'll leave that open from the permit standpoint that, if the applicant, makes modifications to the section near 205 Lincoln Street, then we can consider that as an amendment. Okay? And it's just easier to do it that way. And we don't have to have a whole other set of plans and a filing and everything else. We can just keep everything under the same permit. So permit's good for 3 years, and you can ask for extensions too. So
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
We're here to help. I think that was really my only comment. And any public comment on Lincoln Street sidewalk? So seeing none, Matt, I assume you want to close?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Make a motion to close Lincoln Street sidewalk between Bay Road and Aspen Hollow.
Benson, second.
Caulfield's Benson, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Arrow, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Caulfield's aye, that's 4-0. Any further discussion? What's that?
One quick question before you vote. Did you see any need for the wetland posts or markers?
Anybody have any comment about that?
I don't see a need.
No.
First of all, from about March till about May, you can't avoid it. That's a wetland. I can tell you that. That thing is the loudest, maybe the loudest wetland in Easton.
You can hear it from your car.
Those things are peeping all day long. Okay, so we will pass on the wetland markers. Make a motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for Lincoln Street between Bay Road and Aspen Hollow for the sidewalk project. Noting that under the limited project, the disturbance is de minimis and offset by stormwater improvements compensation.
Crossman second.
All votes Crossman second. Roll call.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman I.
Callfield's aye. 4-0. Okay. Very good. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Okay, so next up is, I think, Peter Lyons. And so this is 15 Longview Drive. This is a continued hearing for a notice of intent for upgrade to a single-family septic, along with replacing, retaining wall, a fence reconfiguration, installation of a shed, and relocation of propane tank. Peter.
What's up, everybody? So as mentioned, this is a continued notice of intent from the previous meeting. The commission had a couple concerns, which have been, to my knowledge, all addressed through a response letter. Some of the new notes are highlighted on the plan in red, so let me just pull that up.
Just introduce yourself for the record, Peter. We know you, but
Yep. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the homeowner here at 15 Longview Drive. Can you see the plan up?
Yep.
Awesome. So again, just a quick recap. This is for a septic repair. We're basically replacing the existing leaching field with a pipe and stone field. It's going to be a pump system. Tanks are going just outside the 50-foot buffer. And due to existing landscaping features and the utilities on site, the field is being situated within the 50-foot buffer. Just again, due to the site conditions, we have existing pools, patios, a lot going on out back, and the utilities and some significant grading in the front that doesn't really allow for the placement of the septic. I guess I won't go over everything again, but some of the concerns at the last meeting, we got some comments from DEP regarding the northwest corner of the property, and there was some question as to whether that had been historically filled or not. The red line here indicates a historic erosion control, which presumably was the work limit from the original house construction. Which indicates that there was no filling done beyond the presumably approved limit of work. Couple other things where we're actually working. There was talk of a filled area behind an existing concrete retaining wall. There had been some materials brought in from various landscape jobs around the yard that had been dumped on the wetland side or the lower side of the retaining wall. So we've noted that the recent fill is to be removed by hand and revegetated with a meadow grass seed mix, as indicated in wetland note 17. Couple little things. We talked about a proposed 12 by 16 shed in the backyard. With that, we're going to be moving the existing propane tank that's behind the fence and moving that up behind the shed and installing a secondary propane tank. The gas lines to that will be rerouted maybe 10 feet, tied in with the existing lines. There's also an old 4-inch pipe that we've noted to be removed. That's just an abandoned pipe. I'm not really sure what it's from, but there's no current use, so that's going to be taken out. It was directed towards the wetlands, so there's no questions with that. That's going to be removed. Erosion control is proposed around the entire limit of work, wrapping around the shed, the propane tanks, and the removal of the fill in the eastern portion of the property. Conservation posts are being proposed in, looks like 8 locations, more or less along the existing tree line, the existing fence in the back, and the existing tree line on the western edge of the property. Those are the changes from last time. If the commission has any more specific questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
The tanks are going from outside the fence to inside the fence?
Correct. There's I'll zoom a little bit. There is a single existing tank just behind the existing fence. Per the commission's recommendation, that is going to be moved inside of the fence, limiting the foot traffic beyond the fence limits. The fence is pretty close to the BVW, so the less activity we have back there, the better. So now they'll be able to fill the tanks from within the yard and service them, access them.
Jennifer?
We were just waiting for the revised plan, which you have on the screen, and for them to respond to DEP's comments. And I'm assuming you did send them the reply to DEP, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, that's all we were waiting for.
So the DEP comments, Peter, he addressed one here during his description, and the other DEP comment was that there was some suggestion about using an alternative septic system, which I believe that Mr. Collins did not feel it was in the best interests and would provide no greater utility to the septic system to do it that way. They had adequate ground separation for what they were doing. So I'm just keeping the commission up to date on what the response was. The response is in the file. So
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I can just kind of I don't have to read the whole letter, but I do have it right in front of me.
no, we're good, Peter. I was given it the synopsis for the record. So we're good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else from the commission before I go to public comment? Any public comment for 15 Longview? Getting these 15s confused. 15 Longview Drive. Any public comment? Raise your hand. Put a note in the chat box. Okay, so from my viewpoint, Peter and Collins and the applicant have addressed all the questions that we have put forth. So I'm ready to close. Anybody else? We're good. Motion to close. 15
Benson second.
Caulfield's Benson second. Roll call to close.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Any further discussion? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 15 Longview Drive.
Speedy, second.
Caulfield, Spady is second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thank you, Peter.
Right, and I think I got one COC later. Is there any questions or reason for me to stick around on that one?
No. I don't think so. That's 232 Prospect.
Correct, that's all I see.
Yeah, we're good on that one now. Took us a little while to get there, but we are.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you all very much.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay.
See ya.
Okay, so next up is 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way. I believe that one was continued request a continuance to 9/12. So make a motion to continue to September 12th, 2022 for 41 to 16 Indian Cove Way.
Spady, second.
Call Spady a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carroll, I.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Callfield's aye. 5-0 to continue. Next up is 4563 Village Street. Again, we have a request to continue to September 12th, 2022. Make a motion to continue 4563 Village to September 12th.
Benson, second.
Caulfield Benson, second. Roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carroll, I.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. It's 5-0. 550 Turnpike Street. This is a notice of intent for a 101,000 square foot industrial warehouse, accessory offices and appurtenances, as well as demolition of existing site structures and infrastructure. So this was a continued hearing. We've got a couple of members of the team here. So,
Hi folks, Rob Pellegrini here, representing the applicant, Rhino Development. I think I can't see everything because I'm on an iPad, but I just want to make sure that you know that John O'Leary is probably waiting to get on, as well as Scott Morrison from Ecotech and Austin Chartier from McKenzie Engineering. Okay. So real quick, while they're populating, I think our last meeting was June 27th. We continued that in anticipation of the peer review comments, which have come in from John Chesia. And we've actually responded to them, and I think he provided everybody with his final, assumedly final sort of comments today with some suggested conditions. So tonight I'm just going to turn it straight over to the people that I mentioned before. John O'Leary is the project proponent from Rhino Capital Advisors. Scott Morrison is the wetland scientist from Ecotech, and I assume the person you're going to want to hear from most tonight is Austin Chartier from McKenzie Engineering Group.
great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. For the record, John O'Leary with Rhino Capital project opponent. I have a little presentation that I'm just going to kind of pull up here. That we're just going to kind of walk through if that works for everybody.
Yeah, John, your audio is going a little in and out. Just to
Okay. Ditch the headphones. How's that better?
a little bit better, yeah.
Okay. So 550 Turnpike, again, for Rob's point, this is a hearing from June 27th, continued. We received peer review comments on July 25th, responded to those on August 9th, and included in there was August 3rd, we did some stormwater testing witnessed by John Tessier, run by Austin from McKenzie Engineering. So just to give everybody a little bit of context as to where we are today, again, 535 Turnpike Street, located about a half mile from the intersection of 106 and 138, about a mile and a half from the
Audio's still kind of in and out.
Sorry, doing my best I can here. I'll try to speak up. 79 total acres, comprised of 2 properties, almost 50 of which is existing wetland areas. 71 and a half, or just over 71 and a half, is that rare species habitat area. Our plan is to stay entirely outside of that habitat area, as previously discussed. Site is currently approved by a driving range facility. Again, a lot of this is recaps, so I'll cruise right through it, but our plan is to completely demolish all existing structures and make way for a 101,000 square foot industrial facility comprised of accessory office and parking, as well as 7 proposed loading docks and 7 proposed storage spaces. To my previous point, we did receive peer review comments and are civil engineering team has since responded to those. And with that, I will turn over my shoddy mic to Austin to kind of walk through some of those plan revisions.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, John. For the record, Austin Chartier with McKenzie Engineering Group. As John mentioned, I'm going to quickly highlight just mainly some of the key changes that we made in response to both Ms. Carlino's staff report as well as John Chessie's peer review letter. So we received the peer review letter July 25th. And basically as a result of the review, we conducted some additional survey within the existing detention basin, which is also a bordering vegetated wetlands. We conducted some additional soil logs just to nail down groundwater and soil type. And basically all these changes were addressed in a submission dated August 10th that was submitted back to the commission. So just some key highlights here. Yeah, the soil testing on August 3rd we conducted. We established groundwater and basically the soil type that we wanted to use for the drainage analysis, just to make sure that the peer review consultant was in agreement with everything that we saw out there. The logs were submitted to the commission. Some of the changes that resulted in this were some basin modifications. It enlarged slightly to the kind of at the narrow corners just to provide some additional volume, because we changed the soil type to a sandy loam. That was the most restricting feature. It was kind of variable soil out there, so we wanted to use the most restricting. What really dictates our elevations out here is the existing detention basin and wetland. So based on our design, we couldn't provide 4 feet of groundwater separation to existing seasonal high groundwater. So because of that, we provided a mounding analysis, just to basically demonstrate that we won't have any negative effects in the adjacent wetlands. Next slide. So yeah, as I mentioned, we did some additional survey of the existing basin, and that's updated in the existing conditions plan. We also noticed, basically when we were in there, we surveyed the existing inlets and outlet pipes. They, as John Chessie had noted, they were buried. So as one change that we're now proposing is a new outlet pipe to basically eliminate any tailwatering effects or anything like that. That could happen within that basin, and just get it up to current standards to prevent any scouring of the outlet during a large storm event. As I mentioned, the basin was resized to provide the 1-inch storage, so the volume increased a little bit. And we're now proposing 3 additional catch basins on the site, just to ensure that none of them are accepting over a 1/4 acre of impervious area. Next slide. So I just wanted to point out the new outlet that's proposed. There is an existing pipe underneath it. So essentially we'll go in and remove that pipe and basically replace it with this new 30-inch pipe that will outlet to the existing basin. In our operation and maintenance plan, we added language about providing inspections and routine maintenance of that outlet, as well as anything else within the basin, similar to the proposed stormwater basin, but just kind of to include that area in our responsibility of maintaining the property moving forward. That's next slide, please. So yeah, as part of the additional, initially we didn't model the existing basin just because it was a wetland, so we kind of treated everything as flowing there. As part of the peer review, we wanted to model that just to ensure the outlet pipes and inlet pipes are sufficient, which have been modified, as I mentioned. and just that kind of created these S2 and S3 areas that are currently uncaptured and flow directly to the wetland. Everything else on this site is conveyed through the existing basin. Next slide. So I just wanted to show here in the proposed condition, it's very similar to the existing condition. We're capturing the developed site. We're increasing the undeveloped site that's going to flow towards the wetland. So a part of this exercise is basically making sure that, you know, the increased volume not getting captured doesn't create an increase to the wetland. So that's kind of this basin 1P, the proposed stormwater basin. It's sized and engineered to ensure that we're holding back 1 inch of rainwater that falls, which is where you'd see the increase in the smaller storms that flow to the wetlands. We're also proposing low flow channels and a monitoring well where additions as part of the peer review. And next slide. Just the one other thing I wanted to note is that we're now proposing these grassed swales, basically at the low points of the existing parking lots. So in the worst case scenario that these pipes got clogged or, you know, there are leaves over the outlets, that water's still going to get conveyed into that basin, even if the pipes are all backfilled. So as kind of a last defense, water's going to get here no matter what, essentially. So I think that was a good addition in terms of just ensuring that this, you know, the redundancy in the stormwater design. And then the last slide I'm going to present on is the water quality swale that we were originally proposing that was kind of incorporated as part of the initial meetings with the town. We're just basically changed the language on that. We're just going to call it a landscape depression. We're not claiming any stormwater credits for it in terms of TSS removal or treatment or volume. So it is still a key factor of the project, is this kind of landscaped barrier between the building and Turnpike Street, which is what the town had mentioned they wanted to see. So it's just going to be a depression that will be planted and landscaped professionally, and but it's not necessarily incorporated into the design of the stormwater. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Morrison, who's just going to quickly speak to the restoration plan.
Good evening. Just for the record, Scott Morrison from Aquatica. So just kind of reiterating kind of the restoration plans. The existing driving range will be restored by planting 75 saplings, 75 shrubs, removing any of the impervious out there and reseeding that area. The other important thing that will be removed is the fencing along either side. So it serves as kind of a wildlife barrier, so that will be removed as well. So there'll be about 8 acres of upland habitat that will be created by the project. We're also providing some 2 years of invasive species management. So we'll go out there. We've got a detailed evaluation report. Go out there, licensed applicator will go out there, notify the commission prior to conducting a visit, and then going out spot treating any invasive species to try and prevent any invasives from colonizing that. We'll provide a report upon completion of that to the Conservation Commission for the first couple of years of the mitigation. So a couple times a year for 2 years, and we'll provide reports to that. Be happy to answer questions or turn it back over to John to kind of summarize things.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, that pretty much concludes the presentation from our end. You know, we'd be happy to you know, answer any questions that might be a follow-up, but that's pretty much all we had for the commission this evening.
Okay. Jennifer, should we hear from John to just sort of have him sign off on the changes here to the stormwater stuff?
That would be great, yeah.
Thanks.
Good evening. So,
Can you just introduce yourself for the record?
yeah, John Chesia with Chesia Consulting Services, consultant for the commission on this project. So the, Austin went through pretty well all of the things that were changed and modified. I'd say there's probably like 2 comments that remain from my end that I think that the commission can condition. There's some other ones that Jennifer might have, but one of them was I had a question on, and I did a letter today. I know there wasn't a lot of time to do it. Usually I take more time, but this one was close to being able to finish it and just not have to come back for another meeting, which I presume everybody appreciates. So I figured I'd get it in today and at least you have it. And so we move on from there. But anyway, the new 30-inch outlet, I had some questions on the sizing of that. I have the same basic programs as all the other engineers use and spreadsheets and whatnot. And I came up with some different numbers. It seemed like the stone dimensions were a little smaller. Might have been that was the dimensions for the 24, and when they went to a 30, it's a little different. I'm not sure, but I think that's something you can condition. It's not a big change. The other thing is, so the mounding analysis, I'll go into that a little bit more detail. So they have 2 feet of groundwater separation, and they're using infiltration as part of their rate control for standard 2. So under the DEP handbook, if that's the case, you have to do a mounding analysis. And there's a open source program done by USGS that they used and I use and a lot of people use. And there are some comments on that in my letter that I had some questions on that. There is an irrigation well on site, so they have a log for that. And Austin provided me a copy of that earlier today. And they hit rock at about 230 feet, but above the rock, there was some other less permeable soils which would change the saturated thickness. They hit some clay, they hit hardpan. They really have about 30 feet of the more permeable soils, so that would change the saturated thickness, and that changes the mounding, and it changes some other factors. In this particular case, they were reducing the rates, I think, somewhat significantly over existing, at least I think 5 CFS or more. And Austin, chime in if I'm incorrect on any of that. But in addition to that, they did not model any of the rear area where it's grass being converted from grass to sort of an unmaintained. It'll probably grow into a meadow and then a forest over years, all of which will reduce runoff over a grass condition. So the recharge component of the runoff is small because the soils they were mediocre. Some of them were pretty dense, some of them were a little better. And using the rates they're using, the percentage of the runoff rate that's infiltration is small compared to the whole thing. So I didn't run all the numbers myself. That would have taken way too much time and not worth it. You can kind of put a judgment call in that if they make these modifications to the mounding, it's still going to be under the rate, in my opinion. I can't guarantee that 100%, but probably 90% just from experience. But you could condition it that they do adjust that. There's some adjustments they can make to not take advantage of the rate during storms or some other things, because I think the mounding would be impactful if they use it for all of the storms, which is the 10 and the 100 of the bigger storms. You would shut that off essentially at a certain point in the storm. That's what DEP allows. But I still think even if they did that, the rate's probably still going to be under what existing is. But that's a condition that you may want to confirm to be sure.
We worked on that this morning. It's if this happens, then they would need to provide whatever additional information. So we have those conditions nailed down. So thank you, John. And like you said, they didn't account for the improvements that they're making in the rear. And so eventually there would be a lot more infiltration than what they're counting. So it'll be a bigger benefit later on.
in addition to that, just as a follow-up, I mean, the area, I mean, the reason you do all these things is to prevent flooding, and I know that the swamp is in a FEMA flood zone, but the impact of this site on the hundreds, if not thousands of acres of swamp out there is probably immeasurable overall from a, reality check.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Did the applicant have any comments or concerns about John's comments?
No real concerns. I wanted to note the, the mounding analysis. It's really kind of evaluating the wetland close by, and it is it's a man-made feature. So there are, a lot of factors that are kind of subjective that go into a mounding analysis in general. But no, in general, I agree that, it is something we could look at. And the rest of the comments I thought were reasonable to be addressed.
Great. Jennifer, anything else?
Just one last thing, if Scott, if you could just confirm something, I just want to make sure I understand the restoration area. So the invasive species management that you're doing, that's within the driving range. Does it include all of the edges that are currently filled with invasives? Or you're only going into the middle where it's just going to get in there?
I was proposing within the grassed area because there's so much invasives outside that kind of the plan would be to give that kind of a head start and try and keep them out. But to try and manage the entire property would be a monumental undertaking. There's all kinds of invasives all around it. So I think that would be kind of a fool's errand. Major project. So
Wanted to make sure everybody understood that it's completely surrounded by invasives and that the management plan is only for the middle existing driving range where you'll be replanting. Just wanted to make that clear. Thank you. I'm good. I don't have any other comments.
One other question that I noted is that it had been noted the stream had been ditched at some point, and I think that there was some discussion about, as part of the restoration, is restoring that ditching of the stream. Had that been considered?
essentially with the restoration, we just proposed to just leave it as is and then replant it. To try and reshape that. We don't know what it was like previously, so kind of keep that as is, restore it with the native vegetation, and if over time the stream starts to meander a little bit naturally, I think just let it occur naturally.
Jennifer, does that sound sufficient?
I think we can add that we'll just do a site inspection together and make sure that there's not erosion or sedimentation in the wetland from how you propose to address that.
Fair enough. Any comments from the commission?
Just a quick one that might be crazy. Is there any issue with maybe like the littering of golf balls that are in that range? And is there possible cleanup involved with that? I mean, I gotta imagine they didn't, over the years, they never got every single golf ball. I'm just saying, I mean, that just seems like there's a lot of extra pollutants that are like literally sitting to this entire field that's up to what, 350 yards at most? Any thought to that?
I guess I could take a stab at that. I'd say that I think my guess would be most of the golf balls are probably contained because of the netting that was involved there. But I don't see an issue if it's a concern to just send somebody to just kind of walk to see if there's any accumulation surrounding that to pick up.
Well, I just need to know if there's anything buried in that grass that's in the range. Like if there's anything we're going to do with that, or you just leave it and it is what it is.
My guess would be there's probably not that many. We could kind of look at that as we're doing the mitigation. If there's some, we can pull them out. But otherwise, I think that I don't foresee that there'd be a significant amount within the range itself.
Okay, cool. Thank
you. Any other questions? The one last question I have is there any sort of proposed phasing of the work? Is there an intention to do the take down the netting and the structures, and the poles, and then the driving range structures all to start with? Is there?
Yeah, just to jump in there, it'll likely occur as all demolition on site, which will include the removal of the netting and the posts, all buildings, that sort of thing will occur within, the same scope of work, and that would likely occur really first phase throughout the project.
And then when will the restoration of the driving range start? Is that meant to be a before the building or after the building?
Scott, jump in here if I'm misspeaking, but I would venture to guess that the restoration would occur at the same time as most of the landscaping work that would be getting done. It's presumably the same contractor that will be doing both scopes of work. Landscaping would typically come towards the end of the project. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind too is there's some restrictions on when we can and can't do that work based upon natural heritage. So we have to do the work between November 1st and April 15th. So that's going to play kind of a role of how this gets phased as well.
Yeah, I think I'm just a little bit, I just want to keep in mind that the, renaturalization that might happen with more invasives and everything else that's going to happen out there if we leave it go for a couple of years. So that's really the only concern is, does it make it tougher for the renaturalization that's being proposed to stabilize, as opposed to helping it along earlier in the process?
But you would anticipate that being started and planted prior to occupancy?
Yeah, that's correct. It's our plan to tackle the entire construction effort, site work, building, demo site work, building, all in one fell swoop. So that would be roughly, call it, maybe 10 months of construction. So we would anticipate all of that to get done over one phasing. And then to Scott's point, we would be somewhat restricted in terms of when we would have the ability to go in there and plant. So I would imagine that time frame will be pretty well defined.
Okay, and the conditions are likely to have a condition in there about a surety for whatever isn't finished.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Commission, we're all set. And then before I go to public comment. So public comment on 530, 550 Turnpike Street. Okay, so seeing none, I think we're ready to close and take a vote here. So I assume you guys want us to close? See a lot of head nods. A motion to close 530, 550 Turnpike.
Second.
Caulfield's with Carol second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Any further discussion from anybody? Jennifer, you have the conditions we need on this? You're good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 530, 550 Turnpike Street.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. 5-0. Thanks, guys, and looking forward to this project. You got a lot of great work going on out there, so I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Nice night.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to the crew. 534 Washington Street. Again, we have a request to continue to September 12th. I'll make a motion, September 12th continuance for 534 Washington. Can we need a second?
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. 5-0 to continue. Next up is 91 Union Street.
They requested a continuance to 10/17.
Okay.
That's some planning.
Okay, so we will make a motion to continue 91 Union Street to October 17th.
Benson, second.
Spadia with the second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Stadia.
Caulfield's aye. Okay, so next up is 560 Foundry Street. And I see we have Michael Toolhill, representative. You're a little low on the volume there, so.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, actually, much better now. There you go.
Good evening, Mike Toohill from Conoco Engineers and Scientists. I think we're at the point where we're going to discuss proposed conditions for the project.
So let's just, I think maybe we just start off with, just for the record, do you have any additional information for us?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
This is only a for the record question, Mike.
Yeah.
There's no expectations here.
Yeah, no, I know Megan came on July 25th in my absence, and any of the materials were submitted for that meeting. I don't think we submitted anything new for this particular hearing.
And she did a fine job, Mike. I just have to tell you. So.
Maybe just like one full re-presentation.
I've got the PowerPoint. You want to see it again, Mike?
I mean, why the seventh time? Why not?
It's start to finish.
Yeah, just to be sure.
Make sure we don't miss anything.
Yeah. I mean, no.
Okay, yeah, so I agree that I think that we've got all the information necessary. I think there's been some internal discussions about draft order conditions and some discussions there, and some of that may have been shared with you. So I'm happy to have some feedback from you if you have any questions. I know a couple of things we added in late in the game, but I think they're pretty reasonable. So,
yeah, I got them this morning. I've taken a quick look at them. I have some questions about specific conditions, but I can bring that up now. We can go through them now, or I could just talk to Jennifer separately about it, however you'd like to do it.
I'm happy to have you bring it up.
Okay. Let's bring up the, Jennifer, is it okay if I share the draft you sent me?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so
Thanks for the
these are the draft conditions that I'm going to scroll to the top. I was in the process of finishing my reading right before I got on. These are the draft conditions that Jennifer sent over this morning. And for the most part, everything looks as expected, in order. I've highlighted a few items in green just because I have questions about them. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I don't remember discussing some of these, and it may be just fine. So the first one is 17D, submitting new plan sheets showing subsurface excavation on lots within Beaver Brook Riverfront area.
That was the new plan that we just got most recently, the one plan sheet. So that can come off.
Okay. The retaining wall will be stamped. I highlighted everything in this particular category. Visual barriers, and I've got a question about that later on. I'm not sure if this differs from the medallions that we've been talking about, which were shown on our plan set, the location of all the medallions. But there's a couple references to visual barrier details that need to be installed, and I'll get to that later on. There's some more detail on that. I just highlighted this one, just make sure that you've talked to Rick and okay.
It would be required whether we had or not, but yes, we
I just, not my purse, so I just have to ask the question. Again, the visual barriers, I saw that a few times, and there's a description, I think, a little further down. I'll get to that. And I apologize, I'm going through this very quickly, Mr. Chairman, but most of them were pretty standard conditions. These two, I do want to talk about these two in particular. The way that and this has to do with work in the buffer to the vernal pool. So that's 300 feet away from mean high water, up to 300 feet away from mean high water. The way that I read these two conditions taken together is we can only work in that area in July, August, September, and October.
Unless you put the exclusionary fencing up before the time frame.
Okay. And
It's
that's
meant to be either or. So if you need to clarify that, you can certainly suggest how to make that clearer. But it's not meant to be you only have 3 months to work. It's
okay.
meant to be you either don't work then or you do exclusionary fencing.
Okay. And I, like I said, I read this very quickly, so I understand the second one more than the first one. The first one had, you know, a prohibition between March and November, right? Work can only be done between vegetation needs to be done between March and November, but then here we can't do it from March to July. So that's why I was kind of questioning how those two went together. Okay, we can work that one out. Investigate the vernal pool, document vernal pool species to Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program for the purpose of certifying vernal pools.
Correct.
That we could have done at any time.
Okay.
But if you want to go back up to the one about the yellow there, the pocket
This one?
wetland, when should that drain? Is that a 48-hour drain time?
I don't know. I'll have to get, is Megan on?
She is.
Yeah. Why don't we pull Megan into this? I'll put her on the spot.
I don't think I can do it. Oh, wait, I can. There you go. Sometimes, yeah, there we go. It doesn't always work if the screen is being shared, but it looks like she popped on.
All right.
Hey, Megan, yeah, there you go.
For the record, Megan Dutra, Conoco Engineers and Scientists. So for the pocket wetlands, typically any BMP is required to drain within 72 hours.
Okay.
It should really be draining before that. There's not the same kind of typical drain time we have for wetland basins, since it's not infiltrating off the bottom, it's kind of infiltrating out the side, and there's always a pool of water at the bottom of it since it's set into groundwater. But typically, yeah, we would expect it to drain within 72 hours of a storm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I think there was another condition later on that talked about that too, Jennifer, about the potential of it becoming a biological sink. And so if that addresses that concern.
It does.
Okay, good. You had some highlighting. I didn't mean to go by yours. You had the yellow highlighting. I had the green highlighting. I don't know whether you want to talk about.
So, I mean, on that plan, the building is right up against the floodplain, and so that means, you know, you could open your back door and have flooding right there. So, one of those lots might need to switch to a slightly smaller unit type so that there's room to get out the back door without stepping into floodwaters.
Okay. Megan, you have any question about that?
I'm not sure I necessarily have a question. I think based on kind of where all of the access out of the buildings, it's generally upwards of 10 feet between the doorways and kind of where the floodplain is. I know we're at least made of 5 feet. I think most of them are 10.
Not on two of those lots. So unit 3 and 4.
So for 3 and 4, I think the corner of one of the buildings is right there. I don't think the access ways for the house are in that area for where that side of the building is that it gets close.
The building will be within a foot of the floodplain. You're right up against the floodplain, so there will be a condition about that.
Okay, I think we might need to, can I share my screen?
Sure.
Yeah, let me stop.
That's Mike's, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it might even need an elevation certificate at that point if you're right up against the floodplain.
Yep, so can you see the plan on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about these units here, I believe.
Yeah.
Which we certainly have more than a foot here. I believe the access for the doors on this unit are in the side near the deck.
Okay.
And then this one, I would say is probably closer to it's certainly over 5 feet, but probably closer to the 10 feet off the edge of this building.
So Megan, which plan sheet are you on? So that I know I was looking at a different sheet that had the floodplains closer, and I know it was the most recent plan set. So if you just tell me which plan sheet you're on, I'll compare it later on and see if the condition is still needed.
Okay, this is sheet 27,
Okay.
Rev 7.
Okay. I'll go back and double check that. Thanks.
Thank you.
I know the units, how each unit is configured was a major discussion with planning board, so that's why I'm reluctant to have a condition that says change from this type to the other type.
They're not looking at the floodplain.
I understand, I just.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have another condition you want to go over?
I do. Let me get back to where I was.
Thank you.
This is the one I was referring to about the visual barrier. And so it's very specific about how this visual barrier is to be constructed. And again, I wasn't sure if this was in addition to the medallions that we talked about or in lieu of the medallions that we talked about, which were on the plan set. But this was a new signage, I think, from what we had discussed.
So the medallions we haven't used in several months. It's a aluminum marker that we give out.
Okay.
That's and these 1, 2, 3, or 4 are standard boilerplate conditions that the commission has. So the visual barrier is either the post and rail fence or just 4x4 posts, and that's something that the commission would be discussing when they close the public hearing and before they issue the permit.
So is the condition to put a post and rail fence entirely but it's only in certain places where it's up against the no disturb zone?
I would recommend doing it in certain places if you're not doing it all the way.
Right. Yeah. I think that Mike, I think that the discussion here and what we've seen is that with if we just go with the standard 4x4 post, it's out of the ground, 2 to 24 to 30 inches, that people extend their lawn beyond that. And so with a post and rail fence, it becomes a more of a barrier to, that's the end of my lawn type of thing. And so there are certain places that are so pushed up against the resource that typically in these cases where we have, this isn't just for this project, this is something we've done for a few years, where we're right up against the resource, that we put in a barrier that's more than just a post every 25 feet or 30 feet. So.
Okay. No, I understand the reasoning behind it, and I've seen this from other commissions. We have, as you know, we have a lot of work in buffer zone. And so we're going to wind up with a lot of post and rail fence behind all the homes adjacent to the wetlands on both the east and the west side of the site. And I don't have a problem with that. I've got to talk to Rick about it. So just so he understands that that's going to be a condition that he has to put post and rail fencing, behind essentially all those homes.
Do we have a sense of how many homes we think it is, Jennifer?
We would have to look at the plan together and have the commission decide what they think is appropriate.
Okay.
so it's just a question I had when I saw this condition. 66, the control exotic invasive species within the buffer zone. It's a rather wide open condition right
I
now.
agree. It's one of their boilerplates. I didn't touch it. So
Okay.
I figured they would make modifications if they wanted.
Okay.
I've never been asked the question before, so. What modifications would you propose we make to it?
Well, first is timing. I mean, how long should the owner be responsible for removing and controlling known exotic invasive species within the buffer zone? Is this just during construction as we come across them? Is this in perpetuity? I mean, I don't see parameters around this invasive species control. I've had a lot of commissions ask for, invasive species control plans, and those plans usually specify duration and length and species and that kind of thing. This condition is just kind of wide open. It's from my perspective for you, I think it's kind of unenforceable because it is so wide open.
If it was a perpetual condition, I mean, there are perpetual conditions. I mean, yes, the only way to enforce a condition after a certificate of compliance is issued is through enforcement, but
Right.
I mean, that's typically the challenge that we have with conditions. I mean, it's, people, they're not supposed to use salt, they're not supposed to, use all
No
sorts of
snow, different places. And,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
yeah.
yes.
I'm just trying to find out what the commission wants with this condition. What would you like us to do?
It's a good question, Mike.
I think that this is one of those cases where I think it speaks for itself. We just don't like the answer, but I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't mind the answer. I want to know going forward, what's my charge? What are we supposed to be doing? Are we doing this during construction? Because we know we've got some invasive species out there that we need to control. Is this a condition that's going to go on the homeowners after the fact as well?
I think they have time to deliberate after we close the hearing.
Okay.
Do you have?
Again, Mr. Chairman, we're not opposed to this. I'm trying to get my arms around it to know exactly what it is I need to do. A lot of the other conditions are very specific.
Just taking some notes.
Okay. Jennifer, you had
Missing something.
big yellow down here, total movement area 4.
Yeah, I won't be able to answer that now. I'll have to read it later.
Okay, all
Figure
right.
out
I
what I was
wanted to
talking
stop
about.
at the yellow when I saw yellow.
Yeah, thanks.
This one, we may have to look at the numbers again because I'm not sure what these two numbers, the 18.5, the 17.5 are. I mean, we have that whole stream bank restoration along the daylighting, and then where we join, to the stream upstream and downstream. Maybe that's what these two are.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
That it's required, and then you have all of this extra in creating the stream bank.
Yeah, because we get.
I think that's why I have it highlighted, just to make sure I have the right thing there.
Okay. Because we're going from the 175 foot long culvert to 230 something feet of stream bank, so we're going to have all that stream bank. So I was just trying to figure out where these two particular numbers were. These were your highlighting?
Yes.
I don't know if they had questions about it, or?
I think it was just memorializing some of what you're doing in the ACEC.
Okay. This is a question I'm going to have to ask Lori. You have a question, why start so late, May 15th?
Oh, yeah.
That was in her memo.
I know, that's why I wrote, why is this so late?
And I will ask her that question.
Yeah, thank you, because half the season will be over by then.
Yep.
Oof, I'm sorry, what number was that, Mike? Oh, here it is, 76.
76A.
Thanks.
Number 80, I understand, we've talked about this. It's just, again, Mr. Chairman, it's kind of open-ended. If you determine there's substantial adverse impact, the applicant has to provide additional wildlife habitat. But what is substantial impact and how much additional wildlife habitat? I understand the reasoning behind it, and we have some opportunities out there. This was something I think that Mark had in his memo originally.
And I sent the draft order to him. He didn't have time to review it the last couple of days, so
Okay.
I expect him to give some comments on that and probably wordsmith that a bit more for us.
Okay, good.
Yep.
That's what this is. This was you're highlighting about the trail and access. And Mike Spady may be able to answer this better than anybody. You know, do we have conservation land connectivity directly where we're talking about putting in those stairs, Mike?
Yeah, we should. So there's no existing trail like the beginning where like the project's starting, and it's more towards the back. So we'll have to build obviously that trail from connecting across the street where the Bay Circuit leads.
Okay.
Yeah. But definitely, you know, we'll need a kiosk up that way just to kind of clarify what it is, what it's connecting to.
Okay.
So our intention, and I did actually ask Mike this question over the past week. So I think our intention is to have a kiosk there with our intention that if there is trail connectivity, if we have to build, 100 feet of trail to get to the existing trail, then we're good. So
yeah, trail work should be pretty simple. So we'll do that part of that. We're going to try to do that through the Bay Circuit as well. So that should help out as well.
All right. And this last highlighting was also yours, Jennifer. Their adherence with other conditions.
I didn't, those aren't the right numbers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's an old condition, so that it's just highlighted for me to go back and put the real numbers
fix it.
in. Yep.
All right. So, I mean, all in all, Mr. Chairman, pretty minor stuff. Couple of open-ended questions. How much, how big, when, and so we should probably talk about those just so everyone has an understanding of what the requirements are on the applicant.
I think we can clarify those for sure. Okay. Anything else, Jennifer? Any questions from the commission? Any public comment, 560 Foundry? So, I'm in favor of closing the hearing. Once we do this, we have to issue a decision within 21 days. And so, it does give us time to discuss this, and we can discuss it tonight, and we can do what we want to do, or we can, our next hearing isn't for, I'm trying to think what day it is.
The 12th.
Which is 21 days, isn't it? No, that's,
Yeah, it is.
It is. I mean, if you would like us to waive the 21-day requirement, the applicant would be willing to waive that so that the commission can finish deliberations and hopefully on the 12th or that following meeting, have an order.
I mean, it would be cleaner just to continue knowing that you're probably going to close that night and issue within a day or two after that than to have a letter that I don't know is, I know other towns do it, but the regs say you have 21 days, that's it. So
Actually, there are other towns that require that you sign that as you file the notice of intent.
I know, but I don't know how that's legal. So If we think
know.
we're not gonna finish tonight, then we should continue just knowing that we're gonna hammer all the rest of this out before the next meeting, and that it'll be issued within a day or two of that meeting, not that there'll be another 21 days on top of that.
So, I mean, I guess the question here is, the commission, before we decide to close or not to close, is what information do we need in order to make these decisions? And do we have that information available to us to do that? I think Jennifer's recommendation is to be a little bit more deliberate about our deliberation. And these are the three questions that are on the table from what I can tell. If there's another question here, by all means, someone speak up. Jennifer, Mike, you too. Is it the visual barriers? Which lots are we proposing are requiring them on? Okay. Invasive species management, duration. What's our intent? Enforcement, responsibility, timing. Does that make sense? Right? And the question about the wildlife habitat and substantial adverse impact, putting a little bit better definition around that, as well as what might be the mitigation for that, so that the applicant has a better understanding of what his potential scope of activity might be there. Does that make? Those were the three things I took notes on.
It does. I know on the third one, Mr. Chairman, Mark has some ideas about that because we've actually discussed that before. So I'd like to have him also weigh in on that. Mark Mangello from LEC.
Right. So, I think we probably have to hear from Mark. I'm just trying to do this all in my head. I think we probably do. And Jennifer and I had spoken last week about the fact that we didn't think Mark would have this prepared for tonight. I think that I would like to see the commission and maybe some, take a look at the plans and try and figure out which lots we think are going to be most impactful to the resources and where we would like to see a visual barrier such as a posting rail fence. And then we have to decide, listen, if we're requesting it on 36 of 46 lots, that I don't know if that's the intention here. We really need to sort of make sure that we're doing what our intent is. So, and we have to have a conversation. But I mean, we could hash out the invasive species part probably in a short period of time. So, but I think the one for us is get the information from Mark. I think that there could be some tweaking on our side, but to be honest, I think Mark probably come up with something that's pretty acceptable to all sides here. And it's really the big thing for us, I think, as a commission, is to decide where we want those visual barriers. We want it on 10 lots or 20 or 30 or 40. So 10 Mike would be happy, but we'll see.
I think in the greater scheme of things, Rick's probably not going to have a problem putting up split rail fences.
Yeah, I know that, and I'm trying to be, me, Mike. I mean, I'm trying to be fair to both sides of this, and do our job in protecting the resource at the same time. Making sure that the applicants' requirements are clear to you and being fair to you as well. So,
Right. I mean, you might say if it's close to the floodplain, you want it on all lots close to the floodplain. If it's near vernal pools, you want it near all vernal pools, particularly if they allow pets in this development, because dogs running into vernal pools, grabbing turtles and stuff is not helpful, and not with all the money you're spending on enhancing those wildlife habitat areas. So you might do it instead of by lot, you might do it by resource area. Or you might say, it only leaves out a few, so to make the subdivision consistent and look cohesive, then maybe it does need to go through the whole project. But you'll probably want to look at the plan to get a better sense of where that should be.
Yeah, it might have to go on all the exterior lots. You know, because they're up against something on both sides. So maybe it's all the exterior. I just want to be able to give a contractor marching orders and say, this is where you have to do it.
Ideally, it would be nice if it were on the plan, but they haven't really had that conversation yet. So it might be the condition plus, please give us a revised plan sheet that shows that. So.
Yeah, which we would probably want to do anyway to give to the contractor, because if you don't put it on the plan, they don't build it.
Okay, so I think we'll continue. I think that our best course of action is to continue to 9/12. I do want us to listen. 9/12 is it, you know, and I mean let's all do our homework. Let's get this done. Let's come in 9/12 and deliberate this and get this done. So I mean that's my charge to everybody here. It is. You know, and if we've got questions, you know, reach out to Jennifer and ask questions. If you need more plans or you need to know exactly which plan you need to be looking at, and just please reach out and someone will direct you to exactly which attachment and which sheet we really should be looking at. Once you start looking at it, it'll all start to click to you, and then we'll be able to come in and say, you know, what we need and what we want.
Yeah, and it would be great if we could close an issue that night.
We are 100% all on the same page there.
Okay.
You've got it like 99% of the way.
Yeah, it is. It's most of the way there.
So I am in favor of that as well. So okay, I think that's it. So motion to continue 560 Foundry to September 12th.
Spady, second.
Caulfield Spady, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carl, I. Crossman, I.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Okay, we'll see it on the 12th, and we'll get it closed and hopefully get a vote done.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mike. Okay, so next up is 121 Pine Street. This is certificate compliance. They asked another continuance to 9/12. Make a motion to continue 121 Pine to September 12th.
I'll second.
Benson with the second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, I.
I didn't catch you there, Mike. Spady, aye.
Kind of quick on it.
Too quick.
Hitting that mute button too fast.
I got my dog's being a goofball. She's snoring, so it's a good problem.
Caulfield's aye, 5-0. Next up is another certificate of compliance for 45 North Main Street. Jennifer, you want to give us some perspective on this?
The visual barrier has been installed correctly now, so.
Yes.
This one, it didn't require an as-built plan in the order of conditions. We got one from the Board of Health. It only shows septic system in the house. It doesn't show grading or any of the wetland items, but it wasn't required by your permit anyway.
Yeah, this is from 20 years ago, so we're just trying to close out a permit. So, any questions from anybody? Jennifer's got the right visual barriers now. So. Any public comment, 45 North Main? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 45 North Main Street.
Benson, second.
Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, I.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Crossman with a very dramatic eye. Next up is 8 Harvey Lane. This is a partial certificate of compliance for a single-family lot within a subdivision. Jennifer?
So we don't have a as-built plan for this one either. I checked with Board of Health again today. They have one. It does not show the grading in the back. or any grading on the property. It's just the septic system in the house. It doesn't show the dry wells that were supposed to be for roof runoff, and I didn't see anything in the field. I can't tell. I mean, this is the permit for the entire subdivision, so I didn't see anything about the vernal pool documentation, but this particular homeowner isn't going to have that anyway. That was for the whole road. It's mostly about the roof drains, not seeing those in the plan. Well, there's no plan, so, but not seeing even the ports in the field. So I don't know that they were constructed.
So do we feel like the stormwater is being adequately handled by the existing?
I mean, it comes down the downspouts and right into the grass. So it's being infiltrated.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Concerns? Any public comment? 8 Harvey Lane. So I will make a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance for Lot 7 only. That's 8 Harvey Lane.
80 second.
Roll call vote. So go ahead.
Benson, aye.
Arrow, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
All falls aye. Next up is 232 Prospect Street. Once again, this is a certificate of compliance for an upgrade to a residential septic system. If you recall, about a month ago, we denied a certificate of compliance request because there was some debris in the wetlands that has been verified as having been taken care of. So I believe we're okay on this. Any questions? Any public comment on 232 Prospect Street? Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 232 Prospect Street.
80 second.
Caldwell Spady, second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Arrow, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caldwell's aye. 5-0. Next up is 11 Glen Road. This is a request for a partial certificate of compliance, construction of a new home, septic system, grading, utilities, and repaving of a driveway/roadway.
Yeah, the request is for a partial, but
Yeah, really, there's nothing left, right? After we do all this, there's nothing left, right?
no, it could be a full.
Okay.
I mean, the stormwater basins are in. The contractor has been paid and is no longer there. So there could be some modifications that the homeowners would like to make. I have no problem with those, and those could be done after we issue the certificate of compliance.
I'm just, Scott wants to come in here just in case.
Okay, just my only comment to them was that the letter we received said everything was done according to the plan. But instead of dry wells in the person's rear yard, the contractor installed 4-foot catch basins, precast catch basins with the grading. Not ideal for the homeowner, but we can issue that full certificate here.
Scott, I've recognized you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering. As Ms. Carlino said, I think the only clarification we'd like to make, the dry wells that were installed in the back of the house, the 3 dry wells, they are in fact leaching pits. The only difference from the design plan was for whatever reason, they put catch basin grates on the top of the structures, but it's an actual leaching pit. It just has a catch basin grate instead of a solid cast iron manhole cover like you would typically have on a structure. So that's the only difference. It is still a leaching pit. We did send over the cut sheet that the contractor provided to us today, just to clarify exactly what was installed.
So, I guess the only question I would have is the applicant satisfied with having these grates in their backyard?
I assume they are, Mr. Chairman, that they've been there, for close to a year. Since last fall, everything was installed. They finished the yard this spring as far as the seating and everything else goes. So they've been in place for 9 months now, thereabouts, Mr. Chairman. They haven't had an issue.
I mean, I think the other thing is that it is a hazard to wildlife, right? I mean, you've got, small mammals and small amphibians that can just fall down in the basin and have no way to get out, right? Because of the pit, I mean,
Definitely no way out, no question.
So, I mean, it certainly wasn't designed as it was, approved.
Agreed. It's definitely a different color, Mr. Chairman. You're correct. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Okay. Jennifer, any further comment, or do you want me to go down some of these other things?
No, I don't have any comments other than it would be okay to issue the full for them.
So do we want to provide some leeway? Should we provide consideration to providing some leeway to some minor changes to some of these structures? I mean, I think that there's two things. One is I'd like to give them permission to put a different cover on top, right? Certainly even a plastic cover would be better than having that grate on there. Like I have on my septic tank, right? So I think that might be safer for the kids as well. The other thing is that the stormwater basins, I understand that they're a little concerned about their construction and the potential for someone to fall in and be injured. So I think that there's some consideration there of potentially filling it with stone and then loaming and seeding on the top of it. You get the same functionality without the danger. So I'd like to potentially provide that consideration to the applicant that we would issue certificate of compliance with the permission to do those two changes to the structures that would make it more amenable to them. Now, it's unfortunately out of pocket to them because they've already paid the contractor, but I think that maybe over the next year or two, they may find themselves that they really want to do that. So I would like to do that with a certificate of compliance and allow them to do that. That's my perspective, at least. Any comments from anybody? Jennifer, did I do okay?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's exactly what I discussed with the homeowners when I did the site inspection.
I don't want anything falling down those grates, animal or human.
So it looks like the homeowner has their hand up, so I'll promote. That's okay.
Yep, I was just about to, but go ahead. Hi, Kristen.
Oh, here we are. We're on. Thank you. We just wanted to say hi as the homeowners.
Yes.
And yes, we would really appreciate that to be able to work with you guys after their certificate. There are a couple of hazards there for the children right off the road and in the backyard. So we're open to working with you guys. I think filling them with stone would be a great solution for us for sure.
Great. Any questions for anybody? Any public comment, 11 Glen Road? So I make a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for 11 Glen Road, noting that the applicant has the permission to modify the covers to the catch basins as well as the stormwater basins, modifying the structure so they are not so dangerous. You should reach out to the environmental planner in order to get guidance on those.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I need a second.
Second.
Lydia with a second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Callfield's aye. Thank you all.
Thank you, folks. Thanks for your consideration. Good night.
Thank you.
Next up is 59 Aquatica Avenue. This is a enforcement action Who's the, is it?
Arnold is the homeowner. You had a copy of the violation letter and the photos from the site from April. Just the wetland had been cleared. Tree trunks and branches had been placed within the wetland along the edge of the pond, edge of the dam, and that work requires restoration and a wetland permit if you would like to continue maintaining the dam structures and the berms.
Okay. Sorry, I was just looking for something here. So.
I'm not sure if Arnold has brief comments he would like to make.
Yeah, he can go ahead if he would like to do that. You can turn on your video, turn on your audio. Mr. Newberger. Or not.
Maybe we ask to unmute. Try to prompt in case he doesn't know where the things are. Okay.
There's some video.
You.
There you
Okay. How's that?
go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay, not bad, thanks.
So, we have this activity that happened on this pond next to your property.
That's not in my property, yes.
Was this on your property or the
Yes.
Cool. So what was the intention here? And
Well, I've been living here since '95, just maintaining my property in the same. I understand that my house is in the buffer zone. It's very close to the pond. My driveway is 10 feet from the pond. My dam, the dam is part of my property. The pond is part of my property. So just in the course of living here, I've tried to maintain it, restore it, maintain it, rebuild it, patch it.
okay, so I just want to be very clear though that because it's your property doesn't mean that you're free to do what's.
Oh, obviously, I wouldn't be here. I know.
So,
I see that now.
So Jennifer, what's going to be our best proposed action to
Well, you either keep it under enforcement and require restoration, or if it's an allowable activity, then you require a wetland permit for it. Those are the two options.
So have you guys seen the pictures of what's going on here? So, I mean, so taking down all these trees, what impact does that have on the wetland resource? It's pretty significant, I would say.
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking the commission and Jennifer.
It's a lot.
Yeah, how many trees approximately were taken down, Mr. Newberger?
3.
They're pretty large.
Go ahead.
A lot more than 3.
Well,
piled up against the dam.
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
There's a lot more than 3 trees piled up against the dam.
Well, yeah, the town's been taking, not the town, but the utility's been cutting the trees, mostly. I took down a few saplings right on the edge, and there was a tree that wasn't very healthy in the middle. That's about it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna share my screen so I can get some clarification here because.
But National Grid doesn't leave the trees there, though. They take them away.
No, but there were trees there that the tree that I took down was fairly tall. So the picture that you see on the screen, if you look on the top, you'll see those logs there. But those logs represent the trees that I had just cut. There were other there were just leaves and branches along the dam over the last 20 years. Not in the wetlands, but on the dam.
When did you cut those? You just recently cut those?
Yes, this past winter.
Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, just from my perspective, I mean, I find it a little hard to believe that the National Grid would come and take those trees down and leave them in the wetland.
No, that's not the point. I cut the trees and I left them, but there weren't that many trees that I took down.
So
in this area,
I'm having trouble reconciling that because that looks like more than a couple of trees.
Yeah, it's more than a couple of trees.
I said 3. No.
It looks like more than 3 trees. Looks like more.
Well, it may look like that, but it's not. I had to cut them into very small pieces because I was moving it myself.
You said there were saplings, right?
Oh, it's a few saplings and one major tree. You'll see that's the tree you're looking at there now is a major tree. But you can see those are all small sections of branches that I had to do because I couldn't move them. I had to move them myself by hand.
Right. I mean, I see the brush pile to the right, but.
Okay, so the cutting that was done within the bordering vegetated wetland, you would typically require the trees and shrubs to be replanted. The tree branches and trunks and all of the wood that you saw there typically would be removed from the site. And then if the homeowner intended to continue maintaining the berm of the dam for removing trees or shrubs, then that would require a wetland permit with the engineered plan and possibly going to the Office of Dam Safety, depending on the size of the dam.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly from my perspective, I don't think we've had one come before us that we haven't asked them to replant what was taken down. So.
Yeah, definitely have to be removed and replanted at the very least, right?
Yep.
But that's yeah.
And I think that one of the points that Al has made in the past is that, we don't want a little 3-foot sapling put in there, right? And we want to give them something, a substantial head start. So, you guys, I don't know if the applicant should come back with a planting plan or we should propose exactly what should be on
I think you should because I would have no idea what would grow there, what would live, what size you want, how you want to do it.
So you would typically require that he hire a wetland consultant to come up with that plan for us to review.
Correct. And I think that's what's going to be required here. So I think you need to reach out to a professional here to give you advice on what to propose to us to plant there, given that.
So a local nurseryman?
A local what?
It means like a gardener, like a
nurseryman. No, not a gardener. Someone that has a nursery that grows trees.
You would need a wetland professional, a wetland scientist.
Do we have like a list? Do we have like a list you can provide him, maybe? With people?
It may have been done already, but I can certainly resend.
Yeah, this is more than contacting your local landscaper or nursery. So, because the wetland scientist will know what plants have the best chance of survival and enhancement of of the area. So.
Okay.
So I think that's the way to go. I think that, the issue about, maintaining the dam, as Jennifer says, that requires a permit. And that's not just filling out paperwork, but it required engineered plans and everything else, because the dam is a pretty substantial issue.
Right. No, I have no intention of doing any more work. Just I'll do the plantings that you want.
Okay. So Jennifer, you can get him the list of the wetland scientists. He can have a couple of conversations, and they can tell him what it's going to take to do this, and then he can come back to us.
Okay, so ideally, we're coming up to September, when September, October is a great time to plant. So do you have a time frame you would like him to come back to you with that information?
So I'd like to hear, we got 3 weeks till next meeting. I'd like to hear from him at our next meeting.
Absolutely.
When is your next meeting?
September 12th.
September 12th. I won't be in the country. I can have wetland scientists, if I call, get in touch. If Jennifer sends me someone, I'll have him do it.
Well, why don't we try that if that works out?
That's what they're asking you to do. Make sure.
No, I understand.
Contact
as soon as you send
someone
me the
and
names,
hired a wetland consultant prior to September 12th, and that
I'll try.
can attend the meeting in your place.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is a discussion about 61, I think. Sorry, I got too many.
61 and 57 are Randall Street. So I'm going to promote Mr. Doyle.
Can I call a timeout for a bio break?
You can make a motion. So anybody want to second that? So we need a small recess.
I'd like to make a motion for a small recess. Would someone like to second that?
Second.
Thanks, Al.
Well, let's roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Arrow, aye.
Grossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Callfell's aye. We'll be back here at 8:42.
All right, John, it'll just be a minute.
That's fine. I can understand that.
Okay, so we're all going to stop video and mute. Okay.
Hey, John, we are recording, so you may want to mute yourself and turn off your video.
Sure. If I, oh, I got it. Okay.
8:42, everybody back? Almost. Al, you back yet? I'll give him 30 more seconds. Okay, so we'll bring the meeting back to order, noting that Al is absent, but I will announce when he joins us again. So, Jennifer?
Yeah, I'll just touch on the highlights here. It looks like conservation trails were constructed on private property, including trails and boardwalks. And then Mr. Doyle, you're looking to have the trails closed to remove any liability that you have as the homeowner.
Right. So, you want me to I can just summarize where we were last week, Jennifer? Can I do that? Can I do that?
Quickly.
Okay, so, again, my name is John Doyle. I live in New London, New Hampshire. I'm one of,
For the record, Al Benson's returned, so thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
no problem. I'm one of the three owners of the property. The other two are Jason Plano and Peter Delaney. I do want to thank Jennifer for arranging this time on the agenda at such short notice. Jason and I met with Jennifer and Stephanie Danielson about a week ago to continue a conversation that we started with Andrea Langhauser over a year ago, when we identified that during a land sale that the town had constructed part of the Clifford Ranch trails on our property without permission. I think we had a fairly reasonable discussion last week about possible ways of resolving this. At least I thought so. And but we wanted to at least come in front of the Conservation Commission to make sure everybody was aware of the fact that the town had cleared trails and built structures on the property, and that there were several concerns that we had relative to the situation. I just want to quickly highlight three of them. I don't want to drag this out too far, given you guys are so late here. The first one is a timeline. As I mentioned, we addressed this issue with Andrea over a year ago. That would be about March of 2021. At that time, she was working with one of the associate commissioners to geolocate the trails and confirm what we were saying. Just to help with that process, I pulled a GPS app. I walked the trails myself. I took a few pictures. I popped them onto the trail maps that were in your GIS system, and I sent those off to Andrea, and she and the commissioner agreed that the trails were on the property. Andrea also suggested that the accuracy of the tax maps that were questionable, so that she required from us a survey. That didn't make a lot of sense to us at the time, and we were in the middle of the sale process, so we decided to finish the sale process, which took a little longer than we thought, and but here we are now. The reason I bring this up is it's concerning that we are needing to start this discussion again after a year, and the fact that the town didn't feel obligated to reach out to us to attempt to address this issue before now. Second concern that we have is around process. I think if anybody was developing this property, because of the proximity to the Black Brook and all the wetlands that are on the property, we'd have to come before this commission and bring a wetland delineation with us, a survey, engineering plans. Because of the difficulty of developing here, we would likely be asking for waivers, which probably implies that we'd have to be sending out abutter notices. Most of that due diligence likely was not followed when these PATS trails were installed. and in survey in particular. And if they had been followed, I probably wouldn't be talking tonight. The third concern is the one that Jennifer raised early on, which is liability. During the meeting last week, we asked both Jennifer and Stephanie, if somebody injured themselves on a town trail, is the town liable? And Stephanie's believed not, as long as there was no gross negligence involved. And we asked if somebody was injuring themselves on our piece of that trail because of the structures, would we be liable? Stephanie didn't know for sure. We asked if there was any documented inspection schedules for these trails, and we also asked if there was a documented operation and maintenance plan that supported, let's say, within the town budget. And it didn't seem like there was, and that's a concern to us too. So, as Jennifer alluded, we would like to request that the portion of the Cliff and Grad trails that are on our property be closed to the public until the town or the Conservation Commission has a chance to review the situation and our concerns. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think, just for the record, I don't think this issue ever came before us. At least I don't recall it that way. I do think that, so from that perspective, I apologize that this wasn't addressed the first time we brought it to our attention. And I agree that I'm glad that it's been brought to our attention this point so that we can determine where we need to go on this, right? So, do we have any additional information on this, Jennifer, other than what Mr. Doyle has presented to us?
Not much. I didn't know anything about it until he had brought it up a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, it wouldn't take that much for us to block off the trails. And then, you know, Mr. Doyle, it's probably prudent if you posted, you know, private property, no trespassing signs as well. You know, between the two of us, we should be able to get that blocked off well enough. And then at some point in the future, we'll need to figure out how to reroute those trails on town property, not on private property.
We may want to also sign stuff at the other end of the kiosk, because now you're putting people in a loop that's going to not have a loop anymore. You're going to divide them on two separate ends of, you know, the kind of like that area, that part of the woods. You could be on the high school side, you could be on the Lincoln Street side.
You probably cannot make the loop if you would.
No, you can't. I'm looking at the property line now and the map and the trail map coincide. And I mean, you hit it at 2 points. You hit it by the high school, then you hit it at like a little further down to the left on that loop side there. Yeah. So you're right, the big bridge area, and then you're right in that connectivity to the high school. This is also something we have to keep in mind for the cross country team. They run this as their training area, school starting. That's going to interfere because that's a hunting thing. You know what I mean? That's what they were using. So we got to think of that as well. This is something for us as a commission, and we have town property in front of it. We can punch a trail immediately, and that could be done. Just you know, hey, we got two able-bodied free guys here. We can get out here quick and do it. If you want to do it.
Just the portion through the wetland. I mean, to his point, if you're going through the wetland, we do need to prepare permits for that. And
no, obviously doing it the right way. Of course.
Again, this is a concern to us. We are in discussions with both Jennifer and Stephanie. Stephanie was going to reach out to the person the attorney. We pulled an attorney because he had done the land work, and so we basically just kept him on to talk a little bit about how we were going to move forward here. So we're having this discussion. I think the conversation was donating the property, and there appears to be some issues around that. I think we threw out a couple of different options of how to get you this property so that you have some rights to it. I mean, I think the last thing we want you to do is have to, do what you're suggesting, which is go take a right and a left around that 57 hour, and then whatever you're going to do to mitigate the crossing over of 61. I think that's. I think we could we hopefully get to a solution where it benefits us to. We were looking to liquidate the property and try to alleviate the situation. That's the conversation we started with a while ago, and we're just continuing with it.
I mean, it doesn't seem too bad. Like the entrance to the high school, that goes through the middle of that first property you have, and that's something that can easily be shifted further right and still not hit the wetland because there's no wetland at that point. So that's helpful for us, at least for the high school. The real corner, it's going to be that loop, that corner that dips right into your first part of that property, but there's something to be done there. It can't be too bad.
Could we put together a short-term indemnification agreement while we address this? Is that something that you'd be interested in, John, or that the commission would be interested in?
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, just so that the town would indemnify you of any liability stemming from the trail while we resolve this issue.
And there'd be some, I'd have to talk to my partners.
Yeah.
Would you need all three?
Well, I mean, that's your issue, right? You have
Depends how you hold it in title.
people who are owning in the property, and you all need to sign it. So
that may be difficult.
Depends how you hold title to it. Two out of three wins in certain scripts.
Not in this situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and again, we'd have to understand what that is, and even if I got them to agree, I think there'd be an issue around what the time frame is too. That would be completed then. Definitely would be an issue there. But I really don't want to go with the partner issue.
Understood.
So I think we have to deal with the cards we were dealt, right? I mean, it's
this is something similar happening in a huge trail network in Vermont. It's a similar situation, but this is kind of how it's going. I mean, it's a really hard situation to handle when you don't want to be liable, and you get that.
Listen, Mr. Doyle's ask is not unreasonable.
Mm-hmm. It's a bummer.
It's
up on both ends.
It's going to be impactful, and I just don't know how quickly we can put together. And I just don't know how impactful. I'm not familiar with the trail the cross country team runs, and whether or not they have alternatives and everything else. And so
will they run that backside into his loop to get to Borderlands so they can avoid Lincoln? So that's the cross country down there. Whatever everyone else is doing, but.
So, but at the same time, I'm going to use that well-worn phrase. It is what it is, and I think that we have to, respect Mr. Doyle's request, and I think we'll have to post signs. I absolutely fully suggest to Mr. Doyle to post no trespassing signs on his property as well. Unfortunately. But at the same time, I would like to see us, and Mike, please, if you can get together with Jennifer and any other associate member that we might be able to pull into this, and certainly, there's other people who'll be willing to do what we got to do. But if we can reroute the trails within the next, 30 to 60 days, maybe it's not as impactful as it is. And I just, Jennifer, obviously it puts work on Jennifer's plate that wasn't there before. Jennifer, I am fully aware.
I'm around in the morning, so if you need it, whatever you need for assistance,
sure.
Say the word. John, real quick, there's part of bridge on your property. Am I right?
There is a boardwalk.
Boardwalk. Are you pulling that? Are you handling it? I mean, it's yours, right? It's on your property. Are you doing anything to it, or are you leaving it be?
I live in New Hampshire.
Okay, got it. So you're not driving down anytime soon. Roger that.
Well, I probably will, but not anytime soon.
Got it.
So a question that's going to get asked by Mr. Plano. Once you reroute, and I assume you pull the boardwalk out of there, are you going to repair the paths? Put them back the way they were?
I would say probably it's probably unlikely that we would do that. We would let it be natural.
And are you going to remove the boardwalks?
I think that was Mr. Spadia's question was, would you give us permission to remove the boardwalk?
Yeah, I think I would. But, those are going over streams. Are you going to repair anything there? Not that I was Not that I was totally attentive during that last agenda item, but there certainly is, you're crossing wetlands.
These are the least impactful way to do this. I mean, that's why they're done the way they're done. And I don't think it's over streams as much as it is wetlands. So.
I believe there is one piece that goes over, isn't it? I haven't got the map in front of me. Isn't there, oh, you're right. I think, I'm trying to think where, Black Brook is. There is, I walked it in the spring. There is water there.
There's water. It's a wetland. There's no actual brook that's going through. You did probably see some moving water.
Yes.
But that was not, no stream. That was just going through their wetland.
Okay.
Yeah, but those bridges are known all across the country, if not especially New England, for being the practice for over wetlands. So.
All right. Okay, I'll take that back to my to Mr. Polano. Again, there was the issue about and that's where it was, but I'll see what it says.
Jen, can you also notify the New England Mountain Bike Association? They took part in building or refurbing one of the bridges in there. So the point is that they ride in there often, and they may see the closure as a default and maybe try taking it down or so on. So just to make more groups aware that it's legitimate, because it's going to be it's legitimate shock. It's going to be a total, change. So people definitely need to be aware that it's legit, not try to break through constantly.
Are you asking me to post? Are you going to post?
You would post private property, no trespassing, but we would, on our side of the line, block the trail.
Okay.
And post on the trailhead.
Is there a requirement to how I post? I don't know. Is there some rules about that?
If you want people to not use your property, then yes, you would post no trespassing signs.
Is somebody I can ask what they have to look like?
Your attorney would help you with that and the spacing and the wording, but they are standard signs you can buy in any hardware store.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I think our closures is obviously doing it with trailheads, so that we try and keep people from going down there and saying, "Well, I'm already here. I'm not turning around." So.
Jen, too, we may have to think the best spot to maybe close that, because I mean, how we can have this long worded sign saying walk, 800 yards up this, and it's tough because that's at a 4-way in the back end of where his closure is. The other end of the high school is a straightaway to the nursing home, but the other way's got a 4-way that abuts a few neighborhoods that can get pretty. I don't know. I just don't know how you want to word it. So just maybe all of us keep thinking about that.
Yeah, we gotta walk it first.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm walking in my brain like 100 times. Sorry.
And as I said, we are working with Jennifer and Stephanie on an issue. Hopefully, we basically move part of this property over to the town. So that may also impact you in the next month. Because I know Stephanie is reaching out to Walter, I guess.
Okay. She's reaching out to Walter, but yes, you do need all parties to agree to that.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Fantastic. I do appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and we will keep you up to date as to what's going on. If there's any changes on your side, please reach out to Jennifer.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Just a few more things on the agenda.
Okay. Next up, Tufts Farm update.
Yeah, so we have unpaid trash and water bills. They're about $1,051.20 that we received. Today is the day that you requested all personal property be removed from Tufts Farm and the keys to be returned. I also requested the trash and water bills to be paid. I did not see the former tenant come into the office to bring the keys or the check, just so you're aware of that. We did site inspections with the DPW and with the building inspector, and the electrical is not anywhere near as bad as I was led to believe,
Okay.
which is good.
That's a blessing in disguise, everybody.
Absolutely.
Lucky pennies.
We were told that all the knob and tube wiring had to be redone, and there was a bid sitting on the desk from 2019, and I thought we'd have to rebid everything and rip all the wires out of the whole house, and it's not anything like that at all. There's just a few, I mean, I made a long list of things that need to be done, but it's nowhere near that bad. So there are definitely things that we would need to try to take care of pretty quickly. We have some money in the budget. If you want to be able to move quickly, then you may want to consider having maybe 2 people be on a subcommittee who can help make decisions on the few things that we have to take care of. And some of it is just inspections, right? The boiler hasn't been inspected since 2019. The septic tank has to be pumped, I'm sure. Just basic maintenance. And
all that fun stuff.
We should have estimates for mowing the fields so that when we are ready to rebid the RFP, the place will be looking nice.
Did Eric get back to you at all for the field?
Not today. Yeah.
So like home ownership, but a committee.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like a homeowner, it's like how much can I spend? So I mean, I think that's one of the things we have to decide is set aside a fund. I mean the Tufts has sufficient money into it. We could set aside give authority to this Jennifer and this group to take action, report back to us, but give them $15,000-$20,000 to do what they need to do and just account for it. And then when they hit the limit again, they got to come and ask for it again. It's just, put a fund together that allows it to do it. I'd love for you guys, 2 of you guys to step forward and, I don't know, Al, if you have the time to do that and, help just talk through some of these things with Jennifer.
I'd volunteer to spend some time on that.
Great.
I'll volunteer too. I'll volunteer too.
Yeah. So to approve, it's got to be directly related to the bringing up to specifications the dwelling. Okay, that's one parameter. Would a double signature, say Mike and myself, or a 3-signature authorize the payment? Let's say myself, Mike, and Jennifer. Would that constitute the authority to perform payment?
Jennifer, any thoughts on that?
I think that's fine. It probably doesn't even need to be that formal. Your idea of the cap and the funding and the list of things when I have the estimates to go to the 2 people who want to review.
Well, I just don't want some of these things, like if you've got somebody who says, yeah, I can be out Friday to pump the septic, I don't need you to come back to me and spend $900 pumping the septic, so that's what I'm trying. I don't want there to be some delay in you having to get back to the vendor. If you get the vendor on the hook and you can get out there, I just want you to sort of be able to take care of it. I think we have reasonable, and you guys have reasonableness. Like if somebody comes in and wants to charge you $10,000 to do something costs $1,000, then you're going to say no to it. I think that we're okay with that kind of expenditure on this. Is 15 or 20 enough to get us through this?
Yeah, one thing we probably have to go out to bid if it's over X amount. You want to stipulate that X amount for bidding? I mean, that's gonna.
No, because it's already part of uniform procurement. We already know what it is. We don't need to specify again.
Simplifies that.
Yeah, I think most of this is going to fall under those having to go to RFPs and everything. So we're good on that. So
I would absolutely be in favor of putting 25,000 in a fund and just telling a subcommittee with some approval oversight to go do it. Especially, I think right now it's so hard to get anyone to do anything on a property. That I don't want our meeting schedule to be getting in the way of little decisions.
I absolutely agree. So let's allocate. I will take yours as a motion to allocate 25,000. I will second that to this subcommittee, being comprised of Mike and Al and Jennifer to address any maintenance and other land issues there. And so that's a second on my part, and I clarified Ben's motion. And we need a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Okay. Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye.
Chair updates.
I have no updates. I will do it at my next meeting. How's that? Community Preservation Committee updates. Al, you had a meeting recently?
Yeah, there was a Community Preservation Committee meeting on August 11th. There was a number of applications that were submitted for review, and these were all forwarded for the next round of considerations. Affordable Housing Trust, which stipulates that 10% of the funding go to housing, and that's approximately $200,000 this year, which will be approved. The Ames Free Library garden walls, they submitted a request for $85,000 repair in that area. Town Hall landscaping, this will be a bigger project, but a $60,000 design funding was requested of the committee. And at Governor Ames Carriage House and Infrastructure, it's a $753,000 project, of which $276,000 was requested from the CPA. That's going for further consideration. One item was passed, the Swift Park design phase, which is down on Foundry Street, and that Aquatic, I won't get that right, but it's an Indian name, starts with a P, the intersection. Say it again?
Aquatica.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That was authorized by the committee and funded to the extent of $25,000 out of a $50,000 budget for the year as design funding. There will be no meeting in September. One other thing that I found of interest, and I want to spend some time on this, is we've got a $5 million static account that's locked up associated with a CPA. I don't think that's appropriate in an era of high inflation or even moderate inflation. So one of the things that I'd like to discuss with the head of the committee is initiating an effort to try to unfreeze those blocked funds. And it may require some kind of a legal action at the legislature. But I think it's worth getting a hold of that. As a former treasurer, that just irks me to no end to see that money not usable for the committee or the community. So I'm going to volunteer over there to try to get that one kicked off. No guarantee, but I think it's going to be worth the effort.
Tom's a finance guy, so he'll understand. So
that's right. Don't give up easy.
Appreciate it, Al. Thank you. Next up is environmental planner updates.
Okay, a couple quick things just to we talked about it before, but just to make sure everybody's aware, September 26th is a Jewish holiday, so we do not have a meeting that night. It's October 3rd. NRT is having a harvest and craft fair on October 2nd from 10 to 2. They were inviting anybody to have tables there. Not sure if you want to have a Conservation Commission table or not. If you do, let me know and I will forward your name and you'll have to fill out the forms.
Not unless I get cool stuff to play with.
Like what? Like what would you picture us having cool at the table?
I'm imagining goats, but I don't know why.
I got chickens. I got 8 baby chicks right now. I'll bring them. Let's go.
You can have one of those stormwater catch basin things you're always talking about. We'll bring one of
Honestly,
those.
just whatever was left at Tufts Farms, let's just bring it over there on a table.
You don't want to see what's left
We
in
could
Tufts
leave it
Farm.
there. Maybe they should.
Yeah, we can leave it there.
there.
We'll do a big horse trailer to help out. Put a few of those.
If you want to explain what wetlands are, you can certainly do that. But if you want to have a table, let me know and I'll give you the paperwork. You can fill it out. October's too good for rock climbing. I'm sorry.
Oh.
MACC Fall Conference is October 15th, so I think you all get the MACC newsletter. Look it over. If that's something you want to attend, let us know so we can put the money in for you to go. Lots of good workshops and new member training, and then any of their classes are really good to take. So take a look at those and see if you want to go to any of those. The last thing, we have one item that's any pertinent item not reasonably anticipated by the chair. 26 Kilsyth was a septic system repair. They're asking for a certificate of compliance for the next meeting, but when I did the inspection, we found out the closing is before the next meeting. Since we have all the information, it's stabilized, it's ready to go, I thought I would bring it up tonight. I just did the inspection Friday. And see if you would approve that so they have clear title for their closing.
So are we talking about full certificate plan?
Correct, yep. So it's 26 Kilsyth, DEP file number 152, 1718, and Easton file number 1727.
Anybody have any questions? I have no objection. So make a motion. Go ahead, Nate.
I said no, not at 9:13. I don't have any questions. It was a joke, sir.
That's okay.
Conservation Commission joke.
At 11:13, it wouldn't be a joke. Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance to 26 Kilsyth Road.
Second.
Oh, there we go.
Oh my. Spady a second.
Whole commission, second.
Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Now, before we go, there are 3 minutes that we skipped over, unfortunately, and I think we ought to be honest, just approve them. I reviewed them. I don't know if anybody had any other questions. Let's get them off our docket. So I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for 6/6, 7/11, 7/25, 2022.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's, Carol, second. Roll call.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye.
I just had one question. When you talked about doing our homework to answer those 3 questions regarding Foundry Street, I'll be able to find those documents on the, I assume that's you meant like looking at the documents on the.
So Jennifer, I think it might be best if you tell us the best plan, because there are like 85 documents in there.
I mean, honestly, I figured I would just print an 11 by 17 of the plan and highlight it and just send it to you.
That would be good too.
Okay.
I was willing to go through all 85, but that'll be great.
We're looking for 6th grade level. Yeah. It's like American newspapers. Bring it down to us.
I went with the highlighter.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And then when do we have to close the trail?
I mean, it's probably as soon as possible.
Do you want to call me tomorrow? We'll talk about more about the trail then.
Sure, yeah, because this week is pretty late and that would be.
I mean, I can do, yeah, just give me a call tomorrow morning. I'm up. I'll be up early, so just whatever you gotta do.
So can somebody just call the athletic director?
I can do that.
I have no idea what that is.
Yep.
Thank you, Nate.
Cool.
Okay.
And just let them know that it'll be closed to the cross-country team, correct?
Well, close to everybody.
Well, right, but.
Not just the cross-country team.
The trail they use to cut over to.
Yeah, just to get,
to
find a
border
different route. Yeah, they need 3.1 somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I appreciate it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Crossman with the second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Caulfield's aye. Thank you all.
Later, guys.
Thank you.